You think I'll let you zone?
On another first look, this is my first actual time talking about a new genre, but this one isn't just a regular visual novel where you read and watch a story with a bare minimum amount of choices to affect the story, but the people at Space Colony Studios want to make mecha visual novels, and they want to start with their first one, which is Stories from Seoul, the Gundog. In this visual novel, it has point-and-click adventure mechanics, paying homage to the classic games of the late 80s, early 90s PC games. Can this new IP group players in a new type of space opera, or will we be floating alone in the void of space? Let's get to it. When the game starts, we are given a brief history. The Earth-based Solar Federation is at war with the Jovian unified colonies, and Martian territories rebelled. The conflict became to be known as the Solar War. It lasted 3 years, where the territories managed to push back the Solar Federation to Earth in the final days, and a certain event happens with the Jovian carrier, the JFS Kyle. You get ready for your first space battle, but you are nervous about not dying in the vacuum of space. Maintenance crew asks you if everything's okay as they run last minute checkup on your mecha. You, as Calic 5, try to shout out something cool but stutter, and the crew tells you to calm down. At this point, you can give your name and pronouns, and after the breathing exercises, you're okay. The crew tells you to not worry, as this is just cleanup after the major battle, so you don't need to worry about any Terran units for the most part, as you can just stay with your squad. After gaining a second wind, you are ready. The squad gets ready for launch with roll call, with Calyx 1 to 4 launching, but when it comes to you, there's a malfunction and the crew tell you to shut down your mech. The crew find out the harness didn't disengage, so they're going to run a full diagnostic and reboot of the OS, but Unit 6 can launch instead. Unit 5 will be launching a bit later. Just give them 5 minutes or so, but that wouldn't come to pass as you sit there and hear screams and yelling that your squad mates are asking for help. You can't do anything but sit there and listen as the squad is picked off one by one, with you trying anything to get someone to hear you, but the radio goes silent and the only one who's talking is you. 4 years have passed since the battle, and you are now a lieutenant in charge of security on the patrol ship Gundog. It's your first day on the job. You are there to help investigate strange signals coming from out deep in the Martian territories. You go to meet the captain at the bridge and run into someone familiar. It's your ditzy girlfriend Cassandra. She is happy to see you, as the both of you are never stationed in the same place. You wonder why, with her immense talent, that she isn't somewhere better instead of on a patrol ship. You've been together for a few years, but the majority of it was through email. The reason she was sent here was that she couldn't remember all the clearance passwords for her previous ship, so she changed them all by one number to remember them. But it locked everyone else out. Luckily for her, it was found out during training drill and not normal operations. So Cassie was sent to the Gundog because a new sudden mission came up and the Gundog needed better crewmates. So you still don't know why you got sent here too, and she comes clean about using her contacts to redirect you to where she was going to be so you guys can be together again. Cassie knows she was being selfish, but she didn't want to be on a crew where she knew no one, but you were glad to see her and you want to report to the captain, but Cassie says that they have time to sightsee on the ship and to look around before reporting in, so why don't they go together? They meet a few of the crew like Dr. Roserum, who is very blunt and not one to have small talk. He starts talking about Cassie and her upset stomach and diarrhea. Apparently she's allergic to the synthetic food in the mess hall and would have to eat shakes until it subsides. And Cassie takes you away from the sick bay to say she didn't know she was allergic to the synthetic food, but she isn't allergic to the junk food, so it's candy bars and chips until they get shore leave. Next is the mess hall, where they run into pilot Harurumi, who is attracted to you, but you have the option to say whether you know where the room is or not. If you do, Cassie gets jealous and won't make small talk with you for a little bit. Another place is the gunner, which doesn't get used much now, so the person stationed here doesn't do much but stare out into space. And Dylan Dees, who listens to music while working. After the tour, you head to the bridge to check in with Captain Mary's Bartholomew's, and she welcomes you but apologizes for the surprise summons, but they needed security for the mission the Gundog is about to go on, but that should be it. And she gives you full access to the ship. That security is allowed with your access card, and you need to go to the armory to get your standard issue weapon. You and Cassie make it to the armory and equip yourself with a shotgun. Cassie wants to hold the shotgun and refuse to hand it over. You make some small talk if you ever had to shoot people like an action hero. Not at all most of the time, but there was one time where a pilot got into a fight with a maintenance worker about them hitting on his girlfriend, and he cornered them in the hangar with his mecha. You tried to mecha jack him by opening the cockpit, and Cassie asked if he said a badass action line, but no, you just shot him instead. After getting ready to turn in, you run into the asshole Hanson Cries. It turns out he was the other survivor of the incident who survived by picking off his pursuers one by one, but saw that you were still in the hangar when he got back and blamed you for everything. It didn't matter who told him what actually happened. Hansen starts talking out of his ass to provoke you by saying the JCF must need anyone if they hired a coward. You have the option to be the bigger person or give in and beat his ass. This time you stand up for yourself without giving in, and Hansen comments, do you always have your girlfriend to fight and protect you? Cassie has had enough of the bickering and wants both of you to stand down. Hansen will report to the captain at 0400 hours tomorrow, and she will talk with you later. Hansen tries to explain himself, but Cassie tells him to kick rocks as he backs down and then leaves. You explain that he's an asshole, but Cassie tells you not to give him what he wants because he'll just keep coming back for more. She says that you won't have to worry about running into him for a month as he'll be on cleaning duty, but you should rest up before you go to sleep. Cassie gives you a kiss. A few days later, you make it to the bridge. You find out that the captain is a no-show because she has a hangover, so Cassie's in charge for the minute. There was a communication feedback, but not bad enough to stop operations, so they wonder what it was about. Cassie asks if the O'Brien has reported in, but Vanessa says they probably have run into the same problem as them, so they're trying out other frequencies as they get a feed from the O'Brien saying that they're at the meetup point. Please respond. As Cassie tries to respond, there's an attack on the gun dog that renders Cassie unconscious and the ship on lockdown. If they can't get the ship back up online, then they will suffocate to death. They have to get the passcode to reactivate the systems, but the captain isn't there at the bridge and the only one who knows the codes is Cassie. But since she's knocked out, they have to get to the captain because she's their only hope. So you get down from the bridge and hear a knocking coming from one of the elevators. You have the option to leave Hansen in there, but decide against it because he might help. After convincing him, he decides to look for others who are trapped but says thanks before leaving. Later you make it to the engine room, but it's locked off and nothing from the armory will help you. You yell to see if anyone can hear you, but you get Morse code coming from the other side from the chief. She wants you to go do something but don't know what. You make it to the airlock with the spacesuits and radio, so you can use that to get into contact and see, and she explains if she can get the codes, then she can fix things, so you go back to the bridge. Vanessa says to the chief that only the captain and Cassandra know the passcodes. If they can't give them, the only other option is to get into the captain's room and get the codes, but you'll need a device that bypasses the locks. The device is in the hangar, and to get there you have to do a spacewalk from the airlock to the hangar. Once outside the hangar, you need a code to get the handle propped open so you can unlock the hangar door, but no one knows it until you remember Cassie made a lot of important codes she needs to remember. Your guys' anniversary date, so you punch it in and you're in. You look for the portable sub-terminal in the hangar and find it, but doesn't have much power left. But you use it to unlock the hangar door and beeline it to the captain's room. Once there, you call out to the captain, but no response, so you try to go in, but the stench of something rotting pushes you out. You have to find the codes, so you look for the papers on the desk, but one of the drawers is locked. Now you have to find the key. You try and go into her room, but find the captain with a major hangover and ask for the code numbers. She can't really speak, but says that the keys for the desk are in the room. Get them, but do not read any folders in the drawer. You get the numbers, but you read the report about her conduct at the Battle of Lunar 4 years ago, that it was her fault for her ship to leave her post. After putting everything back and leaving, the radio stops working and you decide to get into the engine room on your own. The subterminal begins to open the door, but starts to lose power as you rush through avoiding being crushed. You make it to the system to reboot the ship and input the ship codes, but something goes wrong as personnel files begin showing up and Cassie's is in the center, but don't know why. Then everything turns back on. And Vanessa wants you to go back to the bridge. You run back to the bridge and she says the O'Brien as the demo ends. The gameplay of Stories from Seoul is a visual novel with point-and-click adventure elements as the decisions you make affect where the story goes, as you will have to make decisions and look around places to see if things can be used in an area. You have a move, look, use, talk item in the UI. Move allows you to exit and enter an area and bring up the list of areas you've already explored. Look allows you to inspect highlighted items in an area and get a description of what it is used for or could be used for. Talk allows you to speak to any person in the room or with you for small talk to gain insight at the problem at hand or something else that is useful or not so useful. Item allows you to use an item in your inventory at the time when it is needed or on your own time. If you are familiar to visual novels, then it's just watching and interacting with the story and world you are in. to varying degrees, be it not at all, with just a choice to go one route to see an end to the story. And then there's one that's like a point and click adventure game where the outcome of the story changes with the puzzles you solve and the correct decisions you make that either make situations harder or easier for you the further you are into the story. Stories from Soul sits more on the point and click adventure side, as there are a lot of outcomes to be had with characters on whether or not you're nice and help them out, or you make your character an asshole and drive everyone away from you. There seems to be special added dialogue on if you do something particular, like with your first romance option, Cassandra. If you're paying attention to what she likes, you can head to the mess hall and buy a candy bar to give to her when you give your security report, which will make her happy and ask you if you want to help her with communications details later that night, because she will be the only one on that shift. Or when you have the option to take Cassie to your room and try to turn off the lights, she comments that they can do that later as they don't have time for that right now. I know this wasn't in the demo, but you'll have to pick and choose who to help and who to ignore, because they might become an enemy later, and there will be other romance options other than Cassandra. Stories from Soul, The Gun Dog is a very fun visual novel for people who want some space war drama that you can interact with and are a fan of mecha anime to retro late 80s to early 90s visual novels and point and click adventure PC games. They also have a cool aesthetic for emulating old 80s computers with the black and green screen, not to mention that you can change the art style from being like an indie team made the character renders to an actual studio did it in the options menu. Stories from Soul you may want to put on your gamer radar if you like visual novels or point and click adventure games with multiple endings and routes. It will also be available on every platform this winter, so look out for it. That should do it for this first look at a visual novel / point and click adventure game. I should get into more of these games down the road, but with that being said, stay gold and I'll see you in the next video.